Welcome home. There is in this place the possibility of healing, of repair, of making things right within ourselves, between us and the wider world. We gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so.
Grand Rising. And we are glad that everyone is here this morning with us to join us on this beautiful Sunday morning. We are going to be talking about empathy, a word that we hear a lot today. We'll discuss it a little bit later. People often feel today that we don't have the empathy we need to have for other people. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Our prelude today is Together We Rise. Together we rise. I think that speaks a lot to Wedgewood and to the times today and what we're going through. And Tom Hansen has some words of wisdom for us from the Hindu tradition.
Compassion for all beings is the foundation of true spirituality. When you love and have empathy, you create a space for others to awaken to their true nature. Spread love wherever you go. Let no one come to you without leaving happier.
I like that. That's a good goal and a good way to look at empathy when we allow others to learn more about themselves and find themselves through our empathy toward them. And now Liz has some announcements for us. Great things coming up.
Thank you, Melba. As she said, we have a few announcements of upcoming events this morning. Next Sunday, instead of our regularly scheduled service, we will meet at VisArt Video. We ask that Wedgwoodians come a little bit early, but we will start at 1:30 p.m. screening God and Country. It's a powerful documentary about the rise of Christian nationalism, how it's impacted our constitutional republic, and how it distorts Christianity itself. And we're going to have a great discussion afterwards with a theologian, and we're going to have some community partners with information. So folks will walk away feeling informed and empowered to take action. Tickets are $5. They're available on VisArt's website. You can also purchase them at the door, and we hope to see you there. And our Social Justice Book Club has a new book, Braiding Sweetgrass, which is a really, really powerful book. So join us Thursday, April 24th for our next meeting. We're going to be discussing through page 21. You don't have to be reading the book to join us, but we encourage folks to do so. But it's a great discussion. This is a great book that's been on my bookshelf for years, and I'm excited Wedgwood's covering it. It's indigenous wisdom, knowledge, and teachings of plants and other wisdom. So join us. It's going to be a great book. And our next monthly meetup is this coming Tuesday, April 8th at Hawthorne's Pizza on Old Post Road at 6:30 p.m. We hope to see you there. And Sunday, May 4th is homecoming, the first Sunday of May. Every year we have our homecoming. So if you have not been to Wedgewood for a while, we hope you come back and join us for a potluck at Pascal's Farm. We had our winter social there, and we're so excited to return in the springtime. So see you there. And there's a lot happening right now. I know a lot of folks are fired up from all the activations that have been happening politically and activist-wise. And one way, excuse me, for you to do so from the comfort of your own home is by using 5 calls. There's information on the slides as well as in a newsletter. It's a great way to make your voice heard and to speak with your representatives about the issues you care about. And we are small, but we are mighty, and we need your support to help us continue doing the work that we do. And you can send us your donations in a variety of ways, mail, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, but we appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
And now Reggie will lead us in our extravagant welcome.
We are all welcome here. Welcome to a community that works for peace, justice, equality, and the care of Mother Earth.
We
are all
welcome here.
here.
An extravagant welcome to you because of your gender identification, sexual orientation, ethnicity, economic situation, physical and mental challenges, doubting or believing, being depressed or full of joy.
We are all welcome here.
We are a community of curious and creative spiritual seekers, striving to learn from and embody the way of servant leadership.
We are all welcome here.
We focus on the plundered and the marginalized as we try to address the major issues of our day. We
are all welcome here.
You are invited to share your passion, your inspiration, and your personal story as one of the ways to help heal the world.
We are all welcome here.
And now we come to a time of celebrations and concerns. I think it's celebrate yesterday and the events that took place really all over the world, in Europe, Canada, everywhere. It was a big success of people coming together in the world, seeing that there are a lot of people that have the same feelings about what's going on. So I know it was inspiring and inspirational to people who went, and people who love marching and getting out in the street and yelling. Helps to let off some frustration and stress sometimes. So I think it's a day to celebrate. Other things that are on your mind, celebrations or concerns? I know the concern for our country is foremost in all of our minds, our concern for the world. Any others?
I guess I have a celebration. I guess it could be a celebration. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke about Gavin having a bully girl in his class, and I spoke to the teacher about it, and teacher spoke to the two students about it, but I still didn't feel comfortable about it. She said she was going to separate them at lunchtime so they wouldn't bother each other. So I just pictured Gavin having his lunch by himself, so I didn't really like that. So I went up to the school and I said that I was going to have lunch with him. He didn't know that I was coming, so I surprised him. So I went in and I had lunch with him at his table. It seemed like they put him over there. So I didn't really like that. So we went over there to that table where the teacher said to go. And it's so funny that the rest of his friends came to that table where they told Gavin to go sit. And I asked the kids their name. I said, what's your name? And what's your name? And what's your name? They told me all their names. They were really beautiful children. And the little girl, cute little girl that came up, she sat. I said, what's your name? She said, Jada. Jada is the girl that was bullying Gavin. So I thought that was quite interesting that she sat down at the table. And so I didn't say anything about any problems, or I didn't bring up anything. I just spoke to all the kids like they were kids and had great kid conversation. So find out a little bit about the girl. So I won't go into a long story, but I was happy. I think it's a celebration because Gavin was really loved. I could see that the kids really liked him, and a group, not all the kids in his class, but a group of kids came over and they didn't mind that he stuttered. And I asked the little girl, I said, do you like my little boy Gavin? And she shook her head enthusiastically, like, like that. So she really liked him. So I don't know if she's hitting on him because she likes him, or she doesn't know how to express her feelings. So the celebration is that I went there to support Gavin, and I saw that Gavin was really loved by this group of kids, and they were really cute kids. And even the little girl that was quote unquote bullying him, she was a cute little girl too. Whatever her story is, I don't know, but they're all were beautiful little children. The celebration is that Gavin is loved there, and they like him, and they think that he's a sweet little boy, and he is a sweet little boy. So that was a celebration, I guess, from my heart, because I felt bad that maybe he was being shunned away, or someone was picking on him and he felt some kind of way. And, I just wanted to be there to support him, let him know that I'm here for him and he has support and he's not alone and I love him and I'm here for you. Even if we sat there just with us, it would have been just fine. But the other kids came over, and it was really beautiful when the other kids came over. So
That's beautiful.
That's
And
good.
Such a sweet young man.
That's a nice little boy. He's a smart little boy too. He made the honor roll, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I think it's a celebration. Maybe it's for me. I don't know. Maybe it's a celebration for Gavin. Maybe it's for both of us. But it made me feel good when I left the school.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
Any others? All right, let's have a time of silence to use as you wish, with prayer, meditation, just a quiet time, and think about some of the things said this morning and lift them up. Amen. As I said earlier, we're going to think about empathy a little bit this morning. And I know this is preaching to the choir, because this is probably one of the most empathetic groups that I know or have been a part of. But often we think today that we're not seeing the compassion and the empathy in the world that we would like to see, or maybe that we think we used to see. Understanding another person's feelings, being able to put ourselves in their position, having genuine concern for that person and their well-being, their emotional stability, and being aware of nonverbal cues sometimes, because people will often say, "Oh, I'm doing just fine," when they're not. So we have to watch for other verbal cues when people need our support. If we look at world religions, empathy is certainly a part of all of the world religions. Thomas shared a quote from Hinduism. Judaism talks about the values of compassion, repairing the world, encouraging acts of charity and social justice. Islam promotes mercy, compassion, emphasizing the interconnectedness of humanity and the importance of helping those who are in need. We're more familiar perhaps with Buddhism and the encouragement of nonviolence and compassion, kindness, understanding of other people. Confucius has a word called Ren, R-E-N, which means encouraging the benevolence and deep regard for others' feelings. In a biblical context of Christianity, we know that Jesus certainly taught us by his actions as well as his words on empathy. He showed us what it means to love our neighbor as ourselves. He sat with people without judgment. He fed people. He healed people, and he never asked what they believed. When we empathize with those who suffer, we are less inclined to judge, blame, and condemn. When we get to know that person that we may call the other, we feel differently about people. A couple quotes I want to share. Reverend J. Dana Trent is a graduate of Duke Divinity School and professor there of world religions. There are three things I know to be true. First, empathy makes the other our neighbor. Second, empathy increases with use. Third, it's difficult to hate when you take time to understand. If they and I can learn these three lessons, hate cannot survive. And Dr. William Barber says to us, we are in desperate need of empathy at a cultural level. America has a heart problem, and until we can feel and acknowledge the pain of those suffering, whether from economic poverty or various isms, we can't begin to heal together. While empathy does not entail trying to solve or fix another person's problem, we have to know, and solve and help them with their emotional state. The empathy that increases our compassion can motivate us to work towards justice in a world that is apathetic to the suffering of all. Empathy then leads to change of heart, and that leads to change of actions. And now we have a video on empathy that's done by Dr. Anita Nowak. She calls herself an empathy evangelist because that has been her focus throughout life. She's an author. She's an international speaker. She coaches people and counsels people on how to become a more empathetic person, how to get rid of that hate that you may be feeling. So I think she has a lot to say to us this morning. And so we will listen to Dr. Anita Nowak, empathy evangelist. I like that.
About 15 years ago, I was in a long lineup during the holiday season, waiting to send a package without cell phone to distract me. And it took about half hour before I got up to the counter, and when I was finally there, the woman who greeted me was rude. And I don't mean just a little bit off, having a bad day, grumpy. She was actually quite hostile. And my first reaction was to call her out on it. But around that time, I was reading a lot about brain plasticity and the fact that we could become more empathic with practice. So instead of escalating the situation, I took a beat and I looked at her in the eye and I asked, "Are you okay?" There was a pause. She was trying to figure out if I was being sarcastic or sincere. And then she burst into tears. She said, "I've been working double shifts for 2 weeks straight. My son's at home with a fever. I think I'm getting sick. It's 3 p.m. and I haven't had a lunch break. I'm just flat out exhausted." And I remember reaching across the counter, hold her hands. 10 seconds earlier, I despised this woman. And then I found myself locked in an empathic embrace. Empathy is our superpower. And since then, over the years, I've learned that empathy is actually really good for us. At the moment that we were holding hands, if my brain had been attached to an fMRI machine, the scan would have shown that the pleasure and reward centers of my brain were lit up, just like when somebody's eating a delicious piece of chocolate cake or is high on psychedelics. The reality is that when we're feeling this connection with another person, it's like a high to our brain. And it's actually really good for our bodies too, because all that empathic connection, it actually replaces the stressful hormones like cortisol with the feel-good hormones of serotonin and oxytocin. So what's the problem? Well, we can't empathize when we're feeling overwhelmed. It's true, we can't be in a state of stress and compassion, a state of anxiety and grace at the same time. And the neuroscience about this is crystal clear. But last year, I lived it. So in April, I published my first book and went on a book tour. And it was a dream come true. But after 16 days on the road, I was so flat out tired. And I remember getting onto the train for the last trip home to Montreal, telling myself 5 hours to go, 5 hours to go, 5 hours to go. And then imagine 20 little kilometers or 15 miles away from the final destination, and the train came to a complete stop. Now, initially, it was like, okay, this is a bit of a bummer, but after an hour, everybody on the train was getting antsy. And finally, a woman who worked for the train came into our compartment to make an announcement. She said, "Sadly, there's been a fatality. Someone has lost their life on the tracks." And you could feel the mood in the train change in an instant. Whatever we were thinking about, how, oh, we're late, this is delayed, was replaced by this sense of collective empathy. But it took 4 hours for the authorities to actually finish their their investigation. 4 hours of waiting. So by the time we actually got back on the tracks, headed to Montreal, everybody was back to being irritated and annoyed and frustrated, including me, I hate to admit, which is why I often think about that trip home. How is it possible that the empathy was so palpable and then within a matter of a couple of hours, it just dissipated? But as a researcher, I understand that there are limits to empathy, right? I just said before, we can't empathize. Our brains cannot empathize when we're feeling depleted or overwhelmed or stressed or anxious. So is it any wonder in our culture that empathy is on the decline, right? When we're so busy pushing ourselves to the limits, worried about inflation and the next election and the wars. And how can we expect our children to show more kindness to one another when they're up against things like active shooter drills and eco-anxiety? But what if we could develop a set of skills that would help us in our modern day? A set of skills around self-regulation, a set of skills to flex our empathy muscles, a set of skills to maybe even change the world. I have a Ph.D. in education, and for my own thesis research, I was interested in developing curriculum that would inspire the next generation of leaders and change makers. So I interviewed social entrepreneurs. These are the founders of nonprofit organizations that are doing work to help solve some of the most important environmental and social problems we face in the world today. I wanted to know what they had in common, and I discovered that they have two things. The first is that they have service modeled in their homes, meaning to say that their families take them out volunteering, and they live with this sort of like ethos of giving back to their community. The second thing I discovered that they have in common is that when they saw a group of people who were marginalized or disenfranchised or hurting in some way, they felt compelled to act on empathy. They felt compelled to act on empathy. And that insight of how powerful empathy is as a driver for social change transformed my life and certainly has changed how I show up in the classroom. Now, I've been teaching undergrads, college for over a decade. And regardless, of course, that I teach, on the first day of class, I always do the same thing. I show them a set of letters, and I give them 60 seconds to unscramble these letters to form a complete sentence. And then I do the big reveal. You are better than you think you are. 8 little words of positive affirmation. Next, I do something that I think is a little unorthodox. I walk around the room, my classroom, and with each and every student, I crouch down to eye level, and one at a time, I say, you are better than you think you are. You are better than you think you are. Now, why do I do that? Because Maya Angelou was right. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. There's something else that I do on that first day of class. I invite all my students to join me on a spaceship, and we pretend we're aliens traveling across the ether to planet Earth to do a little bit of anthropological research. And the data points are not pretty. They would notice human trafficking and modern-day slavery and biodiversity loss and wealth inequality and massive starvation. Now, I know that there are many efforts underway, thank goodness, to solve those world's problems. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are a good example. But did you know that those goals were launched in 2015 with a 15-year range? And with 6 years to go, we've only achieved 12%. We need a paradigm shift. And so I want to introduce you to the inner development goals. There we go. This is a framework of 23 skills and qualities that humans, all of us, can develop to live more purposeful and sustainable lives. And it was launched in 2020 in Sweden. It's an open source initiative grounded in the best science of inner development. Can you imagine what it would be like from kindergarten all the way through your education and including your professional development if you could learn skills like how to be present, compassion and empathy, intercultural competence, courage, optimism, and perseverance? I think we'd be living in a different world. It's the kind of world that I'd love our children to inherit. A couple of years ago, I watched the classic film E.T. with my daughter, Annika. She was about 6 years old at the time. And she laughed out loud when E.T. was drinking beer at home and Elliot was getting drunk in the classroom. And she loved the iconic scene when they fly over the moon on the bicycle with his little red hoodie. And tears welled up in her eyes when E.T.'s heart stopped beating. At the end of the movie, she asked me, "Mom, why is that movie so touching?" And I was flooded with emotion. And I think I must have said, it must be because we all find it hard to say goodbye to people we love. Einstein famously said, "We cannot solve problems with the same level of consciousness that we created them with." And I believe when it comes to education today, education must be designed and dedicated to elevating our human consciousness, especially our empathic consciousness. Now, we watched E.T. a second time over the holidays a month ago, and my daughter loved the movie even more, and I had a realization. Why is E.T. so touching? E.T., that film, is so moving and so life-affirming because it celebrates empathy between a little boy and an alien other. And it reminds us that we all have so much more in common than we think. And it reminds us that we really, truly are interconnected. Thank you.
All right, some things to think about there. As we go into a little discussion time, think about what empathy means to you. Maybe it means something different from some of the things that she mentioned. What are some of the challenges that we face in trying to empathize with others? And how can we overcome those challenges? And maybe can you think of a time when someone showed empathy to you? It may be the simplest of acts, like she talked about the woman at the counter where she was waiting to buy stamps, or maybe something bigger than that, perhaps somebody in real need, or a time you showed empathy to someone and it just made you feel like a better person. As she talked about, when we show empathy, that science proves that our brain lights up in the joy area of feeling good. So think about that. And if you would share with us your thoughts on what she said and perhaps some of the questions I just posed.
Empathetic since I was a little girl. It wasn't something that I had to work at. It was already there. I didn't realize till she just said that empathy is a superpower. I was like, well, great. You know, my mom, I don't know if you could see it, but this is me as a little girl. And I cared about everything, the pollution, the trees, the animals. I would see animals, a dog, a stray dog, and something inside me made me feel like I needed to get that dog or fix the dog or help the dog. I needed to do that. And I did that several times, and my mom was cool with that. But one time she says, "You can't save the world, because I'm so empathetic." I said, "Yeah, I can, just, one puppy at a time." So I've always been that way, empathetic, and now that I'm grown, I'm still that way, and I will help anyone that I see that walks my path or comes across my path. If I can help with a word, like the lady says, "Are you okay? How you doing today?" To the lady at the food line. She says, "Oh, how are you doing?" I said, "How are you doing? Your day going good?" A little small talk. So I'm glad to hear that empathy is a superpower and it does make you feel good. And I don't do that to look for anything. It's just what I do. It's just I like to do that.
Makes
Because
you feel good and it makes them feel good. See, it
yeah.
is a superpower.
It could be something simple. It's like you see someone walking across the parking lot and they cross your path. Or I say to a lady, "Oh, I love that dress. You look so pretty today. Oh, I love your hair looks so nice." And I'm not saying that to just say that. To me, I thought her hair looked pretty and I thought her dress looked pretty. I just wanted to tell her that. And sometimes they're surprised to hear someone saying something nice to them. So it's pretty cool. I like doing that. Pretty natural.
I have to agree with Ashanti. You actually unlocked a core memory of mine from when I was a little kid. Um, and I was at the waist of my mom and my grandmother as a child. Everywhere they went, I wanted to go. So one time they went to a funeral and they were going to a funeral. It was the first time I'd ever been to a funeral. At this point, I was really young, probably like 5 or 6.
Mm.
And they were like, okay, go ahead and put your suit on, let's go. And so I go to the funeral, and I remember distinctly at the funeral, like as we're walking out and stuff, crying my eyes out. And my grandma's like, "Why are you crying? You don't even know her." Like,
Doesn't have to
and
be.
um, and that's just kind of how like it kind of I guess kept going, from there. And my family's always like that too. Like we try to help anybody as much as we can. Like if you are in earnest, like need something, my family's always been the type to like reach out and help in the best way that they can. Like even recently, I had a friend that moved out of state and lives, I think it was like an hour or so from the airport. I was like, dude, just stay over at my house the night before. I'll take you to the airport. I live 15 minutes away. Just crash here. I'll take you to the airport in the morning. It's not a problem. Or, sometimes somebody's short on cash. If I have the extra money and I can help you pay a bill to keep you afloat, I'll do that. And there's other people in my circle that are like, you're doing too much. Like, why are you, this, that, and the third? I'm like, my thought process is always that if you have the ability to help people, help them. You never
Yes.
know when it's going to be your turn,
Your
and it may
turn.
never be your turn to need help, but that's fine. You should be reaching out to and assisting others any way you can, just to help other people, make it through this struggle of a life that we have to be, that we're in. So, but thank you, Ashani, for unlocking that. I completely forgot that even happened until you were talking about your childhood, and I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
yes.
And you know what? I think that if you're blessed to have more than someone else, like I got more food, or I got a ride, or I got a home, or I got something that I have that I'm blessed with, I should give to another person that
Hmm.
doesn't because I'm blessed to have this. It could be taken away. You're
Right.
going to act a little stinky about it, it could be
Right.
taken away. So if you're blessed to have whatever you're having, you're comfortable, if someone's uncomfortable, I feel like I
Hmm.
have to give, like it's my responsibility to do that. Some people would say, "Oh, well, they're homeless. You don't know why they're homeless. They probably got themselves into that situation." Well, I don't, a lot of people say that, but I
Hmm.
don't know their situation. I keep change in my car, like in a little wallet. And if I see someone that's, they're on the island there, I pull out my little wallet, and whoever I see at that time, they get the whole wallet. And then I refill
Hmm.
it again. So whatever's in that wallet, I just dump it in their hand. There's dollars in there, there's quarters, there's all kinds of change, and I just dump it in their hands. Whoever's the lucky person on that day.
Right.
Why? Because I got change. I'm riding in the car. I'm going home to comfort, and this person's on the island in a wheelchair. I can't really question that. Oh, he did it on his own. It's his fault. I don't know what happened. It could
Right.
happen to me. So I'm not going to speculate. Oh, I'm not going to help them because they're homeless. They did it. They're on drugs. Maybe they are, but if they come across my path, I'm going to do my part.
Right.
Period. I'm not looking for anything. I feel
Exactly.
good when I empty out when I empty out that wallet and they're like, oh, like I gave them $100 or something, you know. They're so excited, and that makes me
Yeah,
feel gonna go get whatever they're gonna get. I don't know. They may go get a beer. I don't know, but that's not my part. I did my part, and they're gonna,
right.
go do whatever they need to do to stay alive. You know.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that's a big part of it too when it comes to, in my opinion, having empathy for people and trying to help in the like and using our empathy and helping people in hardship and stuff. Like we don't it shouldn't be conditional, right? Like it shouldn't matter what they are going to do with the aid that we provided them. It's the fact that we're providing aid to help them with their lives, you know?
hmm hmm I met a couple at the first ward. How did I meet the? Oh, we was going that way. I was down there where Connie had the gathering there for Kamala, and we were down to first ward. And a lady came up and she sat right next to me. She sat down on the ground. I was in my chair, and she said, "What's going on?" I told her what was going on. She goes, "Oh, that's what's going on." And I told her my name and everything like that. I said, "What? What?" I said, Do you come to this park often?" She says, "I live in the park." So when she said that, my heart went. I said, "Oh, you live in the park?" So, anyways, to make a long story short, so we had a brief conversation, and then she said she had a husband. She pointed out her husband was over there. They're both homeless. So I said, "Well, let's go across the street get some food. Let's just go across the street to the 7th Street Market. Let's go, get whatever you want. Just go. Let's go get some food and have some conversation." They would like, like I was an angel or something. But I didn't spend a lot. I think I spent like $20. But I told him to get whatever you want, whatever sandwich you want, whatever drink you want, give extra so you can have some for later. You
Hmm.
know, I gave her some water. I went to the store, gave her some feminine products because there was a CVS nearby. And she's sort of like my friend now. I go visit her every now and then. Her name is Tangela. And so anyway, so I just sort of, and again, I'm not looking for anything. It's just like she came across to me. She sat next to me. We connected. She's hungry. Go get her some food.
Hmm.
It's it's like I don't have to think about it. She wants food. She's dirty. She's hungry. She wants to wash up. She needs some feminine products. So go get them.
Right.
It's I did only spent like $20. It wasn't a lot. But the connection was more than the $20.
Hmm.
I like that better than, I like the connection. I don't care if she was dirty. I gave her my sun hat. I told her she looked pretty. I took a picture of her and showed her the picture, you know. And then when we went to go down to help the homeless people or with this other organization, she was down there. She's, "Oh, my friend." I said, "Hey, friend." We made friends. We're
Yeah.
friends.
And that,
So,
and something like that can be life changing for people. You don't know what their next decision was going to be without that little bit of empathy to provide, some aid to help them in that moment, you
in
know?
that moment, yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to give them more food, but because they don't eat a lot, because they don't have food every day,
Hmm.
what they had, they were filled up. Like, "Oh no, we're
Hmm.
good, we're good." Because when you don't eat a whole lot, when you do eat, your stomach's much stronger,
Hmm.
or your body's not used to getting the food. So they were like, "No, we're good, we're good." So they were going to save that food for the next day. And I went down and I brought them some blankets in a tent that I found on Facebook Marketplace. And then I came back and saw them again another time, and they said someone stole the tent. I was like, "I'm sorry, someone stole your tent." But anyway, I like doing things like that.
Hmm.
Anyone else?
I think that her comment about the school curriculum in
Oh,
Sweden was very interesting.
yes, very.
Uh, there's a survey that just came back. The happiest countries in the world are Scandinavia,
Mm-hmm.
Denmark and Sweden and Norway and Finland.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because they actively try and teach empathy from the time the kids are in first grade. I
Mm-hmm.
wish our system had been that way.
Mm-hmm.
My life would be quite a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom, I know you told me your stories. And maybe the person that likes Gavin wouldn't react the way she reacts if she knew how to react, you know,
Right.
understood, Gavin's a sweet boy. He does stutter, but he's a nice boy, and just be his friend. I was hoping that I showed that when I came to the school to just hang out with the kids. I didn't say anything about the incident. I was just being there and talking kid talk, you know. So I hope I showed them empathy by not coming there being angry or upset, but just showing love to all the kids that were around Gavin, you know. I love the kids. Even the little girl that was a bully, I found out more about her, you know, through another parent. So her life is not the way it should be. So, you know, there's always something behind the scenes. There's always something behind the scenes. She doesn't have a mother. She has a father, but the father's very busy and he's some kind of rich guy, business guy. And she only has a nanny. So perhaps she's looking for love and attention. And when you look for love and attention, it comes out in different ways, you know, because you're just a little person. So you don't really know how to navigate your feelings. She's a beautiful little girl.
Reggie, were you going to say something? No, okay. I thought I saw you turn the sound. Anyone else? Sometimes it is a challenge to show empathy. And I agree with it being taught in the schools, and they do have some of that in Canada. I think a lot of those countries that lean more towards socialism perhaps do teach that in their schools. But, you know, parents here, don't want anybody else teaching their child values except themselves. But even as a teacher, you know that a child is coming from a horrible, bad situation. But yet, when you see that child every day and they're driving you crazy and they're acting out and they're disrupting your class, it's hard to show empathy sometimes.
Yes,
And
it
you
is.
have to remember where they're coming from and what else is going on with them.
Yes.
And so there are challenging situations like that. A lot of people have a lot of difficulty showing empathy to people dealing with addiction because they feel like, well, they did it to themselves. And so there are situations where it's hard, and I think we have to push through them and remember where and again, as it said, put yourself in their shoes, in their situation. Anyone else?
I think people don't look at that. Obviously, I think that the people's first reaction is like what I want, what my situation is, what my discomfort is, why I'm upset. You know, they're not focusing on the other person that's in front of them or may have passed them by. They just think about, well, they rode past me quick or they interrupted me or, you know, they're not really thinking about, well, why is this other person acting like this? And, you know,
Shanti has a closing song for us.
oh, okay. They're all set.
And I believe it's My Prayer for You.
I changed it up. I listened to my prayer and it didn't resonate with what I guess what I was feeling. And so I worked on another song and this is the one that I came up with. It resonated, it felt better. And it's called I'll Stand By You by the Pretenders back in the 80s. So I think this one resonates with what we're speaking about.
Oh, beautiful.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
It reminded me of, you know, Gavin to let him know that, you know, I'll always be there no matter what. I just, you know what I mean? I think everybody needs to.
We all need to know that there's somebody that's going to always be there for us. And I feel like that with our Wedgewood community, that we are here. We are here for you. And as we leave, let us challenge ourselves this week to, at those times when we're frustrated, to reach deep in our soul, to find empathy for that person that it's so difficult to sometimes find empathy for. In closing, may we always consider how others experience the world and that it's not in the same way we experience the world. Help us to understand that their reality is different, and yet we share qualities of the same core desires. Help us to listen for shared feelings, for places of connection. Help us to be curious and open to hearing differences and not judgmental. Teach us how to love into brokenness and how to give people space for healing. Let us be strong in our own vulnerability, in our not knowing and exposing our less than perfect parts. Give us the courage for the days ahead. May it be so.
We extinguish this flame, but we keep the light in our hearts with the message of love and justice, taking it outside of these walls into the world in which we live in until we see each other again. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so. Now go in peace.